That our session was not working today. I'm just going to do a brief overview of this PowerPoint and give you some questions to think about when you are analyzing vengeful creditor. Okay. Um, ah, so the first thing I want you to think about are what are some of your initial takeaways of the story. So before you even begin analyzing, stop and process. What are some of your initial reactions? What do you find interesting? What shocked you? What did you like? What did you hate? What characters did you like? Was there like a plot twist? Really just think about some of those initial takeaways before you even start diving in, because it's important to know how you feel about a story um, as you're going through it. Then think about which character you sympathize with the most. And we were talking about in class, there are a lot of characters you can sympathize with. This is an intense story. It's sad, it's profound. Some of you said that it made you want to, it's a call of action, a call for action for you. So really think about those characters and why Achebe really wrote them the way that he did, because he every way he wrote the character is purposeful. um and think about why you sympathize for them. Then think about, is there anything that you could relate to in the story? No, yes, you're not a child in Africa who's being denied their education, but have you ever wanted something so bad that you were unable to access it? Or one of you said your parents really wanted more for you that they were not able to have themselves. And I think that's something that a lot of parents want for their kids. So think about that. In what way you might not, yes, you might not be denied an education. You're obviously in a public school accessing that education as we speak, but think about how that broader sense, okay? So in class, we talked about this slide, but I just want to go over it again. We learned that Mrs. Emke is a social welfare officer, and I want you to think about, what do you know about Mrs. Emke and why is it ironic that she's a social welfare officer? What is so, what is just kind of a little absurd about the way she treats her servants, the way that she looks down on the impoverished. And why is it ironic that she's in a job where she would want to help the impoverished? She seems really inconvenienced by the fact that when free primary education was afforded to those who can't pay for education, how she lost all those servants. So there's that line there, I'm okay with helping the poor, but only when it's convenient for me. So think about that and why that it's kind of ironic. And Achebe really, he put that in there for a reason. Another thing I want you to point out is the Keys really have this idea. They're talking about free primary education, and they're talking about a man who works at the Ford Foundation who provides their old gardener 7 pounds, bought him a new bicycle and a sewing machine. What does that, why would a man who works for a social justice center, why would he provide this free, or not this free, why would he provide these things to this family? The Emnikis say it's because the Americans, the Americans are unable to afford a servant in their country, and here it's just really inexpensive, so they're going nuts, and that's why they're doing it. And keep in mind, this isn't the 18th or 19th century. This is the 20th century. This is the 1900s, okay? Mid 1900s. So this is the modern world, but it is in an area where there is some seriously impoverished people. Okay. Um, then consider this quote here, and you can pause the video and just read it. But Mrs. Emnike believes Abigail was ignorant because she gave her baby water to stop it from crying. But think about where Abigail was from. She grew up incredibly impoverished. So why would she have done this? Okay. It's not because she's ignorant. There's a deeper reason to that. And think about what the poor had access to when it comes to food, and maybe even think about what Vero does with her siblings. Okay, um, this is Enmity talks about how she turned Abigail into a lady. So what is the author, what is Chebe implying here when she says this? And then I want you to think about that red ink moment, because it makes my heart sad that we're not able to talk about this. So one thing I want to talk about with the red ink moment is that how it's heavily symbolic. So if we look at this from encyclopedia.com, it says the most obvious use of symbolism in the vengeful creditor is the red ink. When Veronica appropriates Mr. Emnickey's ink and uses it in an apparent imitation of Madame's use of cosmetics, she is chastised and told that the ink is poisonous. In the business world, red ink indicates debt. And here, when the little girl later attempts to eliminate little Gotti by making him drink the red ink, she is, in effect, using it to call in her debt. She is the vengeful creditor of the story's title. The creditor is owed an education by her employers. She is, in effect, bathing the child in red ink, an image that is echoed soon after when Madame beats Veronica until she is bloody. Besides signifying debt, the ink also serves as a symbol for Veronica's desire for education and literacy, a desire to be able to use ink for its intended purpose, to write, just as Mr. Emnicky does. So keep that in mind as you are reading. Then there's that last scene when Martha says, then a strange revolt, vague and undirected, began to well up at first slowly inside of her. And that thing that calls himself a man talks to me about the craze for education. All his children go to school, even the one that is only 2 years. But that is no craze. Rich people have no craze. It is only when children of poor widows like me want to go with the rest that it becomes a craze. What is this life? To God, what is it? And now my child thinks she must kill the baby she is hired to tend before she can get a chance. Who put such an abomination into her belly? God. You know I did not. She threw away the whip with her freed hand and wiped her tears. So think about Martha's final viewpoint here. What can we infer happens after this scene? So she she really summarizes Achebe's one of his bigger messages with the story. Like, why is it crazy that the rich people, why is it the rich people are able to have this education? You don't see their kids going crazy over school, but it's when my child is denied that same right, that she thinks she has to go to these extreme measures. So she kind of throws away the whip with her freed hand, and that freed hand is very profound. Think about that line there, okay? Um, as you're going through and analyzing the story, I also recommend reading the annotated version of Vengeful Creditor, because it's going to help guide you and those ideas that we're trying to lead you towards for this story. If you have any questions at all, let me know. Other than that, have a good rest of your week. Thank you.